Just a friendly reminder to make sure you're speaking into your microphones, push the button, all the good stuff.
Yeah, podium.
And then if you're gonna public speak, push the button. It'll turn green.
Didn't know this time like work on Tuesday, November 5th. 4 at 7. We can roll call.
Counselor Funderburk,
She's sick.
excused.
She's excused.
Thank you, sir. Counselor Duffloff,
Here.
Counselor Katie McMillan,
Here.
Counselor Wheeler,
Here.
Counselor Dennis McMillan,
Here.
Counselor Tenike.
Here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This time we're looking for any questions on the agenda this time.
Mr. Mayor, we received an email earlier. We're asking to add Stepping Stones Path first quarter report to the agenda.
Item 5.2.
Item 5.2, yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Any other amendments to the agenda this time? We're looking for a motion to approve the agenda with the addendum of item 5.2. You got to
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda with the addition of 5.2.
Thank you. Can I get a second for the motion, please?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Yes, that would be on to 5.1, general announcements.
Thanks. Excuse me. Just a few announcements on things that we're working on right now and things we have coming up. So those of you that have been up on South Hill, this week we started on Powerline Road from Eagle to Radar. They're putting in curb, gutter, and sidewalk in that section of road there. They anticipate being there from now until Thanksgiving. Weather pending, of course. Really, really windy days, really, really wet days, delays that some, but they anticipate being able to have that completed. So just encourage, by the way, all these announcements have either gone out on subscriptions or on our website or out directly as well, but just wanted to make sure we got them announced here too. So just encourage people to be careful as they're driving through that area there. Also, the other side of town, Willamette Street and 730, that improvement is, again, weather permitting, hope to have wrapped up here by the end of this week, although it's been very windy and a little bit wet. And so it looks like it's probably gonna be closer towards next week. But if the weather cooperates, we'll have that wrapped up here in the next 2 weeks or so as well. We had our Nugent Park grand reopening event last week, and I think Nancy's got some pictures we can put up on the screen there. It was pretty well attended and lots of smiling, happy people out at the park having a great time on sunny day. The smaller merry-go-round is still very much a big hit, and you're able to walk straight onto it rather than climbing up onto it, things like that. Kids still flung off of it and that sort of thing. So appropriate risk reward play there, which is really great. So appreciate all those that were able to come out and support the event. Appreciate park staff for their hard work to bring that park improvement to us and for putting on that event. So thank you all for that. Similarly related, the community center is open again, and you can make reservations online through our online parks reservation websites. If you go onto the city's webpage, click on Parks and Rec, and then it'll take you to the parks page, click on facility rental, and you'll be able to go through and book a reservation. It's $50 for the whole day, and you can book 45 days in advance. Bingo is back by popular demand starting the end of this month, so the week before Thanksgiving. So on Friday is kids bingo, $5, and the following day it's adults bingo, 18 and older, and that's $15. And then lastly, we have an extra meeting scheduled this month. You should have got notification in your email box for Thursday, November the 21st, special meeting at 7 p.m. To hear a land use appeal hearing. So if you have any other questions on that, Brandon can give you some additional information there, but make sure hopefully you have marked your calendars, and hopefully we're able to have folks each of you attend for that. That's all I had on the general announcements. Any questions about any of those? Okay.
Moving on to second.
All right. We can hear you.
So the report should be in front of you. I came to answer any questions or give any other updates that you might be looking for that were not included in the report. Nothing.
Justin, can you give us some highlights as to what are our numbers looking like there, particularly in the recent quarter?
Yes, so we have 21 of the individual shelter units total, and as of today, 19 are occupied. And we have two individuals and one family actually staying in the sleep center now, working towards getting into those units. So we are hopeful that we come up with next steps to get some more units out there sooner rather than later, especially as the weather is getting colder. And the sleep center itself, we continue to see regular numbers. I would say averaging 12 a night. That has gone down and has gone up. We had a couple nights where we were right at 20, which is how many beds we had. Fortunately, we still have not had to turn anyone away. And we have gone through the process now. We're waiting on one more finalization to get the sprinkler system completely online in the sleep center with the water tower. So then we may be able to add a couple more buttons in there once that's fully approved.
Are you adequate with staffing at this point? When I read through the brochure, that appeared that was the case, so staffing is what needs to go.
So I just hired a couple of more people. We had a couple that decided to move on to other opportunities. Actually, they are going back to school, and so schedule-wise wasn't working. So I did just hire a couple more, so we are fully staffed again. I feel like it's changing quickly. But I feel the staff that we have in place now are going to stay and are committed to the mission of the project. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see our business coming to fruition and without being responsible for it.
Thank you for all your hard work. This time we're looking for public comment. We have a Josiah here.
Notice if I've got a couple on the printer, so I'll just give you this. Josiah Barron, 100 Flying Avenue, Umatilla Chamber of Commerce. Just also a few more updates of what's happening here in November in Umatilla. Just at the end of this week, it is finally here, and on the 9th, Fishing the Brave. 110 veterans. It's once again great to be working with Tony and Fisher's Tack Outfitters. Them bringing this great event for our veterans in Umatilla each year. Big thank you once again to the city of Umatilla for being the title sponsor of dinner and all the logistical help that Parks and Rec provides and Public Works provides with setup and other different things as well. But like I said, 110 veterans, 30 plus fishing captains, And council and city staff is welcome to come down on the night. If they'd like in the morning, registration and check-in starts at 7 a.m. National anthem will be about 7:50 with both launching nowadays. 8 a.m. So if you come down in between that 7 a.m. and 7:50, that's when the opening ceremonies will be, if you'd like to come down. Also on the 9th, that evening, from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., the Umatilla Museum is having their holiday tasting party. If you want to try some local wine from Echo Ridge and some local artisan breads from Vault 19 Bakery, and also some cheese from the Umpqua Creamery. Entry, if you purchase tickets before, is $10, and if you get at the door, $15. I think all of you qualify, but you must be 21 to be able to enter the event. And then on the 16th at 9 a.m., if any of you are interested in getting your concealed carry permit, there's a multi-state concealed carry permit class at Quality Inn hosted by Arms the Bear security specialist. For the multi-state, it's $75, and all the instructors are NRA and law enforcement and US SCA certified. So all this information is on the Umatilla Chamber calendar on our website, umatillachamber.org. And just the last final event this month, on the 23rd, November 23rd, 1 p.m. to 7 p.m., there's a chili feed at Old Nick's. They're doing a chili feed benefit to actually help raise money to provide some Christmas cheer to the residents at Sun Terrace in Hermiston. So all the proceeds from the chili feed will go towards that. So it's just $10 for a meal. You'll get a bowl of chili with all the fixings, cornbread, and dessert. So that's on the November 23rd. Thank you very much, Malcolm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josiah.
Okay, I'll double check. Next up, Darla Hudson.
Good evening, Darla Hutzel, 415 Stevens Avenue. First of all, I want to thank you again for serving our community and making the tough decisions and keeping the members of our community in mind when they're making those decisions. I know that last month, I think you made a decision about the date for Rock Logs. I appreciate that you didn't take it right in the middle of golf season. I appreciate that very much. I also want to thank those of you who attended the open house at the clinic. It's very much appreciated. And finally, on the agenda later on, you have where you're going to have a discussion about the paid invoices. Just as somebody who reads all of that stuff that comes to me, it's very informative to me, being able to see those paid invoices. So whatever your decision is, as long as that information is still provided, as a community member, I'd like to see that. I was struck by, we said $2 million last month. I can remember when $2 million was the entire city budget. So we are moving, we're progressing, and again, I think that it's reassuring to me that you guys, that it's included in the packet and that you're looking at that to see where we're at, because whether or not we like it or not, we still need to have checks and balances. So thank you again.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you, Joe.
Moving right along for consent agenda. This time, any questions on the consent agenda? And if there's something like.
Mr. Mayor, I need to declare a conflict 7.1.
Okay, please. Any questions, comments?
Does that mean that we should vote, them separately? It's like this.
You can still put them together. It just doesn't. I'll have to put it on 7.1.
Is there any discussion or comment about 7.1 or 7.2? Are you ready for the motion, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would move to approve consent agenda items 7.1, October 2024 paid invoices, and 7.2, October 15, 2024 minutes.
Thank you. I got a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You abstain?
I abstain.
Okay, we've got a new business. We have 9.1, first reading on ordinance number 873, ordinance vacating a portion of C Street, 7th Street, and the alleyway lane between C and D Street. Right.
You need a motion for a first reading.
Happy to answer any questions you have. If you don't have any questions, I would just ask for a first reading by title only.
We get a motion for that item.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to have a new business item 9.1 first reading of ordinance number 873.
Thank you. Can I get a second, please?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All those. Yeah.
Ordinance number 873, an ordinance vacating a portion of C Street, 7th Street, and the alleyway laying between C and D Street, rights of way in the city of Umatilla.
Move on to 9.2, amending August 4 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So at the council's meeting on August 20th, and the minutes that you adopted thereafter, we missed, council went into executive session and then they came out of executive session, and during the reconvene before before you adjourned, there was a motion made to meet on the 22nd for a special meeting. The previous minutes didn't capture that. The recording certainly has that, and those of you that were in attendance can likely recall that that's what was there. So we're trying to clean up that in the minutes and get these minutes updated to be appropriate for what actually occurred at the meeting.
Any questions from the council? You're looking for a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve new business item 9.2, the amended August 20th minutes.
Can you give that motion? Can I just say, please?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Moving on to 9.3, resolution number 13-2025.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So at last council meeting, we looked to discuss amending or updating section 28 of our fee schedule, which is the fees associated with the golf course. And during that discussion, council asked staff to come back with what a couple different options might look like, and then present that to you. And hopefully through your motion here at the end of the day, at the end of this item, you'll be able to make that determination as to what that should be. So what we provided for you were what the membership pricing would look like with a 2%, 3%, or 4% increase, and then what some of those green fees would look like at either 8%, 10%, or 12%. Now, these aren't the only options that are out there and available. There's several others. One of the other things that we've added here is to include a 10% resident discount, both on the membership and just one day play or green fee plays. We have the pro shop manager here, Megan, and we have Parks here as well to help answer some of your questions. Prior to the meeting today, I had a question about, well, what about if we were to do maybe, residents got, pick a number, 5 free play a year or 10 free play a year or something like that. Those are certainly options that are available to us. Staff, as we talked about that as a possibility, thought about, well, maybe that's more better served as like a promotion where we did resident Wednesdays or something, or maybe Thursdays, because I think you have men's league and things like that on Wednesday night. But finding a day out of the week that was maybe free play for residents that day, and to encourage members of residents of Umatilla to come out and enjoy the golf course. The course this year, as just a matter of information, it operates about $385,000 in the red to operate the golf course this year. That's all revenues minus all expenses of operations. Last year is about $200,000 in the red. So the residents of Umatilla are subsidizing the golf course to keep it open. And that was part of when we first purchased the golf course. We knew that there'd be several years as we're trying to build it up. Revenue has increased from year one, about 100,000 each year. So about 500,000 to 600,000 to now over 700,000. And so we've seen more activity out at the golf course, and we anticipate that to continue to go that way. But we're looking at trying to do that balance of cost recovery versus taking care of our residents who are paying for this course already. And so that's the information that's there for you. I don't know if Megan or Esmeralda, you have anything else you might want to add to that? Okay.
Different other question about that real quick. So
Sure.
you're increasing by about $100,000 of revenue. And why is this year, why are we almost saying went from about $200,000 in the red to $300,000? Why just $100,000?
Yeah, we've added operational staff. That's most of our expenses come from staff. So the very first year that the course was operating, the superintendent out there, as well as the others in public works, we just didn't have the manpower that we needed out there in the first year to get to the maintenance levels that it needed to be. And so we've added in that same time 3 FTE to the golf course. So that's really the offset in cost. Our M&S, our materials and services costs have stayed mostly flat. They've changed a little bit with inflation, but they've stayed mostly flat. It's mostly been labor has gone up.
So no real significant difference for capital improvements of our park.
Yeah, so that's operations. So capital improvements are separate than those. So that's our operation budget. So our capital improvements we've made, depending on the year, I could actually pull that up. It was depending on the year, we made investments anywhere between 200,000 and I think 600,000. If you give me a moment, I have that in the report. I can give you that number too.
And then what's the amount for new cars? And is that in capital improvement?
Yeah. This
Yeah.
year we budgeted 81,000 for golf course equipment. It included carts and then also the beverage cart that we're purchasing. And then we also budgeted some improvements to the banquet room and then the front area improvements that have already been done. So this year we actually had quite a bit less in capital. It was 81 plus 50, so we're at 130,000. Whereas in a couple prior years where we purchased the course, right when we bought it, we spent quite a bit in irrigation investment. And then we also spent quite a bit of money on improvements as we improved the back nine and the power upgrades and everything leading into Aquila.
Right, so in fiscal year 22, we did 200,000 in capital improvements. In fiscal year 23, we did 721,000, and last fiscal year we did 477,000.
We also, I think, have purchased 3 or 4 new large pieces of equipment as far as mowers and stuff go, just for equipment that the course didn't have when we purchased it, or that was very, very old.
And some of that equipment came with offsetting revenue. So the golf cart storage, we've added 50% more than what we had when we first bought it. And so there's new revenue that comes from the lease of those storage.
And did we raise the price? I think we did by $100, didn't it?
We have in the past, yes. Yep.
It says, so we went to 600 for this year. Is that where we were last year? You remember?
I can tell you, we don't have a price for this year, but
While she's looking that up, I'm not lazy about. Dude, what is 100 RD and 50 RD?
Oh, The corporate
Yes.
memberships, they can assign, anybody can go in and, the people that they designate can go play on a business one in there because it's not unlimited because multiple people can go, they purchase how many rounds.
That's one last question for me anyway. Don't we have, like, it's, I'm not sure what the problem permit, but it's like the mechanical shed or the apartment mechanic shed that when we did the tour, before was in dire need of upgrade replacement. Is that slated for upcoming improvement? or-
Yeah, so you have in your budget this year, we set some dollars aside for that. We were gonna save for 2 years and buy in year 3. I remember, I have to look at year over year what that was, but I think it was about 100,000 a year each year to save. But Melissa can give you the exact number here.
Kurt Shed fee the last 2 years was 588 with the early discount was 510.
So I'm looking at these, you have increases, 4%, 3%, 2%. Most in the grand scheme of things, so are we actually going to cut down any of our in the way within 2% or 4%? What are we actually looking at here, per round of golf? Looking at a 4% increase, how close are we actually moving for it, even if we increase it by hypothetically 10%?
I mean, I think when we were looking at, what was it, 8%, we're up to 18,000, but we were only factoring in memberships at that point. We weren't proposing any increase to green fees. Did you guys do a recalculation on green fees and memberships?
But if I think I understand your question, that you're saying we're operating at 300,000 in the red, how much will this help get us there? Depending on how the impact plays, it gets us about 30 to 50,000 less in the red. So
is it increase, or is it worth us actually increasing it? Keep it the same as it is currently. We're only losing 30,000.
I mean, our costs are increasing at more than 2% a year. I would recommend we at least do a minimal increase because otherwise we're going backwards. Our personnel costs, when you look at insurance and PERS and everything and cost of living adjustments, our wages, that percentage is higher than a 3% increase, even a 4% increase year over year.
Right.
And so if you don't want that delta to grow, then I would at least recommend that we treat this somewhat similar, not the same because it's park and recreation, not an enterprise fund. But when we look at water and wastewater rates, we have taken the stance that we try to do smaller incremental increases to keep up with rising costs. And so I don't think the goal is net zero right now, but I don't think the goal is also to increase the subsidy.
Well, I mean, if I can speak to. I think some of it's gonna have to come down to is increasing membership and getting more way,
Well, that's what we talked about before here too, is that if, for example, if green fees go up, let's just say 10% for the sake of discussion, and your membership go up by 2, that creates some level of incentive to people can start doing the math. If they play 10 rounds or 12 rounds or 15 rounds, all of a sudden they can start saying, well, now I should be buying a membership, and then it comes with some of these other benefits.
I think like allow the public to come, we talked about it, but to get the public in there so that they can play. And that way we just treat it as a public parking entity like Hash Park or Nugent Park. Those are free to the public to go. And we take a loss and all that stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm not against taking a loss as long as it's available to the public also, to get to use it once in a while at least.
Yeah, and so that's spot on the discussion. When we talk about parks and recreation services, we talk about cost recovery, and there are very few programs that operate in the black of cost recovery. So you usually have goals of 80%, 70%, 60%, things like that per program. We don't operate an aquatic center, but like Hermiston next door, they get 65% cost recovery on their aquatic center, and that's their goal. They know that there's not going to be, so that's why when you arrive, you pay a resident rate or a non-resident rate. And that's kind of what we're looking here. If you're a Umatilla resident, you get 10% less than everybody else because you are already paying for that service through that subsidy. And so that's what we're looking for when we add it here. And we can make those goals on where we think that level of cost recovery should be. And then, yeah, to your point, if we put a good product out there, the course looks great, people have a good time out there. We add some of these amenities like we've been investing in this year on places to mingle and visit outside. We add some concessions. We make improvements to the shop on some options purchasing options and so on. These kinds of things will help drive membership, that added value plus for the membership. So if we can get more members, we get more play. Our cost for maintenance of the course is essentially a fixed cost. You have your fixed labor, you have your M&S costs, whether one person plays or 1,000 people play, although at some point you do a little bit more damage to the course with that many people. But the general idea is to get as many as we can at that threshold before you have to add more labor or add more M&S to that cost.
Right, and based on the agenda bill from pages 73 to 76, council, if you look, you'll notice that we're talking about membership increases, but if you go to page 76, increase, and that's what we're discussing today. I mean, what is the grants increase as well as commission?
Right.
So I guess what is our, how cost recovery?
Just a second. So not counting capital investment. So fiscal year 24, it was about 70. Let's see, we were at 1.08 million in expenses and 735 in revenue.
Oh, 67.
So last year was about 68% cost recovery. And the year prior, if you we'll just look at 2 years, we're at 21.
Well, also with that in mind, I think if we drive up the greens fees, it's gonna maybe entice people to go to memberships.
Yeah.
I agree.
So last year we were at 68%, and the year before that we were about 76%. So
That decrease in cost recovery was due to, I mean, mainly
Was it
added maintenance staff.
maintenance
Personnel.
was personnel cost.
I'm also. And then, membership fees stay relatively the same, try to drive exactly what Darren's saying, drive people into wanting to get membership, wanting to have a long term.
Your membership has increased the last 2 years too. So from 2022 to 2023, it went up 10, and then from 2023 to 2024, you know, 50 members. So
Individuals.
I'm kind of keep the recommended 3%, and then the greens fee increase, because like Melissa was saying, to keep up with the cost, everything a little bit, keep above ahead of the game, so to speak, a little bit.
Sure, I think there's in my brain, right, as the last meeting was here, you know, we had some members that were upset, of course, and we're not fulfilling some of our obligations. You know, I would move that we, you know, this year we maintain membership where it's at and increase the green fees. And then look at a scale rate. Next year we go up 2, next year we go 3, next year we go 4, whatever the case may be. Which is small and incremental. I get that. It's pennies on the dollar, but at the end of the day, I think it's given back to our members that what we went through this year. You know, just my thought.
I agree with Darren.
So Darren, are you saying you'd like to see the grants increase to 12% then, or 10 or 8 based on?
I'm gonna say 10. Because looking at around us, it's different. Obviously, we're gonna be higher than, not as much as some of the Tri-City courses. And that will give us a chance to work on our scheduling and get things back where we need to be.
And makes it a nice even $20.
Right.
I would like to recommend too, that instead of, having a free play day for residents or whatever, that we give them a significant discount on their greens fees for residents.
Is 10% reasonable or do you want higher?
I think, to me, I mean, our tax money is subsidizing the golf course. I mean, I think it's important for residents that want to play golf to have an opportunity. I mean, I'd like a 15 personally. I just say 1 game a month or something. I don't think so. Yeah, I think that when you start.
Are you talking about membership fee?
That's what I was wondering. Is
Well,
that-
oh, yeah.
So we did some calculations if it's helpful. The amount of the subsidy divided by the total number of households that we have paying taxes It works out, I think we were what, around $170-ish dollars.
159.
159 a year per household subsidy. And of course, it fluctuates a little based on value of your home. With the discount as proposed, it was around $110. So if you did 15, that probably gets you closer to the actual subsidy without overkill.
Sure.
I think I like 15.
And I would say that would go toward, you know, greens fees. Certainly, but I don't know, do we need to look at membership?
Yeah.
Differently?
Well, it looks like they're proposing the 10% for Unitil resident. If we put that at 15, and then can we do a Unitil resident green fee? For that, they show their ID and they live in Umatilla.
Yeah, you can do a 15% across the board for
Yeah.
Umatilla residents.
What if you just gave them the $100 credit, and you use sort of membership fees, what?
I think it gets more.
That becomes very hard to track.
15%. Yeah, I think honestly, they used to do 15% to the Umatilla residents, and then if they come in and show their ID that they live in Umatilla, then they can get a 15% off their fee.
And now that includes green fees and them.
Yeah.
So, if I may, I would like to add that for our memberships, if we want to, if is a consensus that we're not gonna change the fee for the membership?
Yeah, I don't think they've decided yet.
Okay, we also made a change, we added the discount for the residents. And the discounts are not applicable on the cart shed and sale fee and the additional driver, as to last year they were available to those. But it is not applied to those this year.
And I think I think that's reasonable. I mean, you know, cars, they're a fixed cost. I mean, they're equipment, they have maintenance, that, you know, if we're giving a discount on membership to green fees at 50% of residents, that cars are the same for.
Yeah, I agree. If we're just talking about space.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on that? We're looking for a motion.
Darren makes sense.
Yeah, Darren, want to piece that together?
Sure. I make a motion that we, set our pay schedule for Umatilla Golf Course at 15% for Umatilla residents, for discount, for membership and for green fees, not to include cart add-ons, shed, trail fee, add the driver. We maintain the current price of the memberships. We increase the green fees 10% across the board.
Are we doing a tier system with the membership?
What's that?
Earlier, are we increasing each year? So I think that was kind of.
Do we have to come back every year? Can we make that motion now?
So historically, we do our our normal fee resolution in April going into budget. We usually don't address golf course rates at the same time because memberships renewals for them happen at the end of the year. And so we don't have to handle next year. We can do this and come back this time a little earlier, probably 6 to 8 weeks earlier next year.
So this is gonna be for 2025.
The
Calendar year 2025.
And anybody who's renewing for 2025 now already.
Anybody's renewing.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Everyone's got that, right?
Everybody clear as mud.
Nancy, you have that?
Yep, 15% discount for Umatilla residents, including green fee and membership, no add-ons. Maintain the current price of membership and increase the green fees to 10%.
Yep. Give it a second.
Also.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All those. Right, okay. It's a big one. Second public comment, yeah, Kennedy, can you check the public comment? No. Okay. Moving on to discussion item number 11.1. local business grant and downtown relations grant program. Appropriation discussion. I'm gonna go ahead and, also declare a potential conflict of interest. On this one, I feel it's probably on this. Common basis.
I too will follow the mayor's lead, and I am going to declare a potential conflict in the business.
Take us away.
To maybe give a quick recap, this current year, we reduced some of the funds that were available to our two downtown business grants and the local business grant program. That decision was made through the budget process largely because we hadn't been maxing out those dollars. So we had dollars that were allocated to those two grant programs that were not being spent. Through the budget process, we ended up moving the local business grant down to $150,000 and the downtown revitalization grant to $100,000. The good news is that our community development has been very successful in recruiting for those grants. That has put us in a little bit of a bind. We're about 6 months in, and we are likely looking at being out of money or having that entire allocation spent. So in the local business grant so far this year, we have awarded $94,246.25. We have about $55,000, just a little bit over remaining. We have 3 current pending applications. Staff believes all of them will qualify and meet the program, which comes out to about $82,500, which leaves us with a potential deficit of about $26,000. Originally, on the downtown grant, we have so far awarded none through the revitalization, but we do have 1 application in. And based on all of our conversations with some new businesses that are coming to town, which is fantastic, we believe there are likely 3 or 4 more grants coming within the next couple months. That means that we are likely looking at being maxed out on both of those grant programs, probably first quarter of next year. Melissa might be able to speak to some of the specifics a little bit better, but staff was wanting to see if council had a desire to have staff come back with some options to maybe able to allocate some additional dollars to try and bring these grant funds up a little bit. As I said, it's a good problem to have that we were able to be so successful in getting new grants in, and we're seeing new businesses come to town. But this is an abnormal year for us. We hadn't seen this volume of applications really in the last 4 or 5 years that I have been here. I guess I'll stop with that part. The kind of a follow-on question to that, if we don't end up allocating money, is we haven't been in a position where we're having to award or potentially deny. Staff would also like to maybe look to council for some direction on if you would like staff to make recommendations for an award or deny, or if we would rather maybe try and split the difference a little bit and make sure that everybody is getting some funds. We'll have to set up the scoring system, but we can get a little bit more into that, I guess, depending on how the first conversation goes.
Getting new businesses counted is important. So whatever we got to do, I would think we need to kind of see where our options are to expand it. Now these new businesses coming down, that's amazing.
Well, and Brandon, just for clarification too, are you thinking about, should we expand it just for what's the remainder, or are you thinking we might need to have it at a higher amount moving forward?
Certainly, I think we were based on the success we had this year. The next budget cycle, I will definitely be advocating for a little bit more funding, probably moving it back to where historically it had been the last 4 or 5 years. But for this year, I guess we would be looking for a one-time, probably supplemental or budget adjustment to allocate some funds directly just to be able to cover the gap that we currently have. Like I said, right now it's looking like we have about a $27,000 deficit on the local business grant. We could be looking at almost another $25,000 on the downtown revitalization grant if we do get all of those applications that we do believe will be coming in soon.
One thing that could play into it is timing of reimbursements too, because the projects have to be completed. We require invoices, or it's a reimbursement grant. And so one option would be to say we're going to increase from, our allocation right now will cover 4. We can say we want to allow them a max up to 6, but we can wait until, June when we do our supplemental budget and see where did the reimbursements actually come in. And we have operating contingency in the general fund for situations like this, where we could cover whatever's been reimbursed for those grants up to, if we want to say 50,000 or 75,000 or whatever level you guys are comfortable with now. Just giving us a go up to cap and take care of it through a budget adjustment in the spring.
I think the best thing is just come back with options and then we can make a motion. This tonight's just discussion items anyway, so yeah, I agree.
Well, and also that being said, are we gonna have another go round of applications for the rest of this fiscal year, so we can able to help them?
Certainly that would be part of the equation. There is definitely a potential that more grants would come in, kind of moving into next calendar year. Some of that we could work with them just depending on timing. Some of us at point, if we are looking to work something in, June or May, then maybe those should occupy the time they get the projects done and we're actually reimbursing them. Those would likely be into the next fiscal year. So there are some things we could look at. At least in the short term, we were wanting to at least see if council was willing to move some money over to fund these programs at the higher level.
Yeah, and my thought is at least through the end of the year. Yeah. And then, maybe next year, just, hey, look, it's just like when you apply for county grants or whatever, there's a time period that you can block it in, that we haven't historically done, but maybe we can shuffle it around.
And what we're looking at is we have the proposals, the applications we have now. We're looking to bring those to you at either sometime in the next month, either your next meeting or meeting after. And based upon this discussion, that will significantly influence what our proposals our recommendation to you is going to be. Because if the thought is we just can't do funding, then we'll do what Brandon was saying. We'll essentially score these, prioritize them, and then either present fund, don't fund, or some portion thereof of their application. But what I'm hearing is that there seems to be substantial support to, let's get people that are willing to invest in Umatilla, let's invest in them, and let's bring that forward. And so when we get to our final supplemental budget at the end of the fiscal year, we can grab from our operational contingency, as Melissa said. That's why we have these funds there, is to be opportunistic as these kind of things come around. And so if that's the case, well, for example, if we bring you those applications and we're making recommendations to fund them, even though they're above budget, we'll put the asterisk in that says to be included in the updated supplemental budget.
Remember once upon a time, it was hard to get people to apply for these things. They're so low, and so it's exciting to see it in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
I'll give Maricela her credit here. She's done a fantastic job with outreach and has been very proactive to anybody who has reached out with interest in those grant programs. She's done a great job getting interest and getting applications in.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Any other further discussion about the item? Okay, moving on to 11.2, moving invoices from the attendance section to the city manager report section of the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have a longstanding item that's on our agenda usually the first meeting of each month, sometimes a little later in case your meeting's on like the first or second, called paid invoices. And we've historically placed that under consent. Consent agenda items are meant to be items that are routine in nature that come before you each time. And though the items change each and every month, the item coming is routine. The report, as it states at the top of the report, it says paid invoices report. And so a question has come up recently as to when we approve that on consent agenda, are we approving the line items of the transactions or are we approving the report itself? And so from a staff perspective, we have two things that are going on. And for us, we are looking at this, that we are approving the report, not necessarily the line item transactions. And we say that because from a council perspective, you approve budget and policy. So we have the line item budget for each of those items that are in that paid invoices report that come through the annual adopted budget process. And then you adopted through resolution 45, 2019, the public contracting and purchasing policy that operates us that controls all of our operations in the city of how we purchase goods and services. That policy references ORS 279C, which is the procurement policy of the state for public entities like the city of Umatilla. That sets certain thresholds, certain line items as to when you can just purchase something at a low dollar amount, when you need to read quotes, when you need 3 written bids, when you need to go out to RFP. The council is also the contract board of the city, which means something in ORS. And you contract, and this policy references that as well. That's the reason why anything over 150,000, we go out to RFP, and all of those come back to you for approval, because that's at a threshold that policy doesn't allow, and state law doesn't allow staff to approve. It has to be approved by the contract board, which is you. And so what we're looking to do is, we're not asking at all, we heard in public comment earlier today to keep it up there. We 100% agree with that. This report needs to stay in the agenda always, but depending on where it lines up in the agenda is really the question that we're looking at. If it moves to city manager report, then we're treating it like the quarterly reports that come before you from the finance department, the community development department, from my department, or and so forth, or any other report that, like we heard today from PATH. Those fall. So the city manager's report section of the agenda is intended to be exactly that. It's just a report. Something happened, we told you what happened, or something will happen, we'll tell you what will happen. But it's not a discussion that could potentially lead to action either way. It's just a return and report. Whereas under consent, you're actually approving. You're approving minutes, you're approving things that require a vote to be approved to be part of that's in there. And so we're just trying to clear up what that item is on the agenda, and that the individual items aren't, we don't see those individual items as being approved as to the expenditure of those items. We're saying that those are already approved through the budgeting process and through our contracting policy. So I wanted to open that up for discussion, see where the thoughts are on that, and see if we can get some direction as to where you'd like that to be on your agenda moving forward.
We did also consult with our auditors this year through the audit process. They had asked if there was any requirement, like in the city code, that required us to bring these invoices to you, and both Nancy and I have looked. There's not. It's just past practice. It's been going on as long as I've been here, that it's just been another transparency tool, which I think would still be a transparency tool even if moved to a different section on the agenda.
I think as long as the transparency is there, I don't really care what's on.
Yeah, I don't.
I think it's actually really
Yeah.
important to not have it be something we're voting, just for that clarification, so no one does question that we're moving what's been paid. I think having it as a report just makes it very straightforward to what is.
Yeah, I agree. It's like we're approving something that's already been paid.
There are entities that handle it differently. Counties, for instance, the county accountants have different powers and authorities than I do in my finance role for the city. They also have those elected officials, the meetings are held, bi-weekly during the day. We don't have we have different rules that we have to operate in, and quite frankly, we don't have the luxury of time to do our business that way. Since you guys are only here twice a month at night, I can't imagine being able to pay invoice on time if we were having to operate under those same rules.
Basically, they're the managers. So it's a different.
In our county, it's that way. 35 of the other counties, they have a county administrator, but our county is unique.
There has been questions on kind of why we operate differently.
So, yeah, so I reached out to them, and Manager Smith there told me that this was actually one of the first items that came in front of the council when he started there a little more than 10 years ago. And what they do is just a monthly financial report on funds. So they don't even provide the invoice level of detail. They provide it based upon the fund. So here's the general fund. So we get that report internally. Melissa will send that to us each month. It's the monthly financial statement. And essentially what Hermiston does is takes that information and turns it into a digital report. So the general fund, we're 1/12 through the year, and we've spent 1/20 or whatever of our budget. And they kind of will run that through and then they'll highlight some of the items that were spent on there and what they see upcoming. And so
What you get in your semi-annual.
you get in your semi-annual report from financial.
We're gonna hide it in the budgets. Like, the whole point of us doing this by line item is to have transparency with the public, to see it.
They're not saying that's what we're doing.
I'm not saying that's what we're doing. Yeah. Yeah, and to be clear, I agree with you, Mayor. That's what we're saying is
We
that
don't wanna take it.
we don't want to take the report out. We just think that there's this confusion as to what, when we say we approve paid invoices, what are we approving? And what I'm saying is we're accepting the report. We're not approving that line item detail in that report.
So can we reach out to legal counsel to see what their is on this as well?
We have, yeah.
Okay, and do we have that? Do you have a written form, like, are we, who is in contact?
So we've reached out to both Tonkinthorpe and to both our auditors as well. There's no law that is pointed to that requires us to approve any line item detail in there. It goes again to what I was mentioning in my introduction. What does our policy say? And that's our public contracting and purchasing policy. And so there's really two questions that is at the council level. Do we have the budget and do we have the policy? And so we should be saying yes. And did we follow our policy? And that should be yes as well. Those are the level for the contract board to be approving. Now you can update the contracting and purchasing policy. We did that was 5 years ago in 2019. That can be changed at any time. And so you can look in there, and what you can do is make it more restrictive than what the state has. So for example, we don't have to start getting quotes on anything until we get over $10,000. You could say, I want quotes always. And that could be our policy on whether we're buying a candy bar or whether we're buying whatever, we need 3 quotes or something. We can be as restrictive as we want to be. We just can't say, if the state says you have to get 3 at 10,000, we can't say no, 20,000. So you can say, no, 10,000 is as high as we can go with that. We can't go above that.
And again, I always wondered why I'm approving something that has already been paid. That just didn't make sense to me.
Well, and that's for us, the title of it is called Paid Invoices Report. And so it's meant to be a report.
Well, and if at any point, number one, we don't pay things if they're not procured correctly. If for some reason we did have a department procure something in a manner that didn't meet the requirement, but the services had already been provided and we had a liability to pay an invoice, we would bring that to you as a discussion or informative that we had a procurement procedure violation and decide how to correct or what action to take.
Would it be appropriate to have any discussion on things? Or would it be better in
The reason we went with manager's report is because that's typically where we're providing like our financial reports to you, and this is a mechanism of doing that.
Keep the information.
Yes, definitely.
So what we'll do with that, council, is we'll just prepare not a resolution, but just a standard motion for your next meeting. And we'll put that on the agenda for you to, as a clear motion and directive to staff to move the item from where it's historically been to the manager's report.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah. Good.
Okay, moving on to mayor's message. Vote, hopefully you guys did already, so it's too late for that now, but
90 seconds left.
Okay, so voted, I'm going through stuff like the podcast so far, and I do want to thank Roar Tann for the years of service and dedication to the city of Umatilla, for his thankless work. For your service, it has been appreciated. It is not gone unnoticed, and thank you. Okay, that's all I have. Thanks for being your path. I was good to see you. For talking about golf. Yeah, that's all I have. Moving on to council information discussion, starting out with Councilmember Darren.
Short and sweet. No matter what the decision is tonight, we're all gonna get them to work tomorrow. So, be patient, have grace. So as we get older, You know, humility is a wonderful thing, because a lot of times it hits you right square in the face. And to be humble and to be a part of the community is wonderful. And having grace is the biggest wisdom that I could ever have. So, I would say we all have grace and understanding for
Amen, bro.
whether I agree or disagree, doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. So, have some grace. I really appreciated, I went to the ribbon cutting that we did at the medical center, or the hospital. It's fantastic. That's a beautiful building. Definitely cool. It's exciting to have our community, because I know that we really need to expand it. So I'm excited to have that here. Nugent Park looks fantastic. I still think we should have got the metal slide. Because I had enjoyed that. They should have.
There's a lot of DNA on that slide.
So, but no, we have a lot of exciting things happening in 395 and 730 looks fantastic. You know, 6 pillars of strength, I guess it would be, or whatever you want to call it.
They'll do it cool.
Huh?
They'll do it cool.
It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it does.
I like that. So no, I'm excited to see things going that way. And I agree with Darla. I remember when our budget wasn't near what it is, what we're putting in invoices in 1 month. So that's fantastic. A lot of growth. So again, thank you again, everybody, for showing up tonight. And good luck tonight. And you, Mike. Yeah, thank you. Me too. Ashley, you as well. So, that's all I have. Thank you. Councilmember,
And kind of piggyback off of what he said, no matter what happens tonight, it's not our job to judge. Everybody's entitled to their own thoughts, their own opinions. It's our job to love and to show kindness and to show grace. So no matter what happens, just try and go with that. And then also with the Nugent Park, yes, the slide. But I am so excited. So excited. Dennis actually made my son's shorts from flying off on the old one when he had a swimming so hard. So I'm glad they still have that. For memories like that.
He was hanging off the legs, swinging through the air like this, and it's just going around and around, all of a sudden the shorts. It was.
Make memories like that. It's great. I was excited about that. So, but no, you guys did a great job at that. And also during Halloween, it looked incredible in here. I mean, you guys always transform it. You can't even tell this was the city hall. And I'm pretty fond of Prince Eric. You may or may not have been in it. But you guys did a great job setting that whole thing up. So good job with that. And thank you everybody for coming tonight. We appreciate it. Have a good night.
Like I've learned so much in the last few weeks because of all the stuff we've had going on here. It's been incredible in Umatilla. And you actually reminded me, so the trick or treat, we loved that. Our kids loved it. I think this was the most they've ever walked down all of the city. One thing I was talking with someone about though, and I was trying to look on my phone, which by the way, I was trying to get it on the Facebook. And at one point I was referencing it to another parent. And they were like, oh wait, there's a map. And I thought about it later. I'm wondering in the future, can we maybe print out and put it on some of the buildings that are participating with the trunk or treat or the trick or treat?
Yeah.
So that way people can.
We used to.
Have that.
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah, we used
But
to.
I was.
I'll keep the, if I may interject, I'll keep the responsibility for that. That was on the chamber.
Yeah, so I think it was phenomenal. It was so cool to even go down to Java Jackies and see even businesses down there. Like we could walk all the way to Dollar General, like the kids had a ball with that. So great job staffing right? And then also for all the grand openings and really nice, and it's been so great. So just thank you.
All right, you go Verizon.
Yeah.
Anyway, I agree with everything those guys said, but I want to ask one thing, Dave, how in the world do we get a cardboard recycling place on South Hill?
Oh, that's a better question for Melissa, but,
Listen, how do we get a cardboard recycling?
it's just our partnership with our solid waste. It can be done, yes.
But I mean, cardboard, everybody's got cardboard.
The short answer is yes, it can be done. The cost and logistics associated with that are yet to be determined. Yeah.
We're having some extensive recycling discussions with the curbside recycling mandate that's coming. As part of that, we did, request funds for expanded depot services. At that point, the reason for that request wasn't to create a new depot, it was for the potential at, relocating the existing one, so that, you know, where it's at, it's kind of prime downtown location, and we're thinking that that property might have a better use than a depot. We had discussed other locations downtown, but I think it's something that we could certainly request. I'm not quite sure they would approve for cardboard only, so we'd have to have discussions with DEQ and sanitary disposal.
I just know that lot where you guys had the newspaper one, it's quite a bit of room up there. Or even down at the cemetery, there's the concrete retaining wall down there. You put multiples down there probably. Anyway, I don't know. I just know that every time I've gone to one down here, it's just jam packed, and so I got to go all the way to Ernest. Anyway, that's all I got to say. I'm not going to keep showing for myself. Thanks everybody for showing up and good for that.
Thank you. So, I apologize that I missed, trick or treat on Sixth Street this year. I was, enduring 15 glorious days in the mountains, unplugged and untethered. That was absolutely incredible and amazing. I encourage everyone to try it. It's free, like, I can't believe it. Unbelievable. And then when you finally do decide, okay, it's time to come back to civilization, and your phone blows up, and you realize, oh, we're good. Yeah. Anyway, so question, how was the attendance for Church on Sixth Street this year compared to previous years?
Most we've ever had. Last year, I think we were just under 1,200, and this year we were 1451. Came, so 1,451 people came through City Hall on trick or treat on 6th Street.
The line was clear down the street to get in.
All the way.
City Hall.
So, anyhow, as others have said, no matter what happens, it seems like, there's gonna be a certain faction of our civilization that's gonna, kind of decline a little bit and just endure it. That's all I have.
This time, we need a motion to go into executive session.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, we leave our regular session and enter into executive session.
Take that motion, kind of a second, please. All in favor?
Aye.
All vote. I have it. City will now meet in executive session to two counts of ORS 192666028, public your attorney, regarding your legal rights and duties in regard to current litigation that more than likely not to be filed. Representatives of the news media, city manager, and city attorney, Stockdale, and financial and administrative services, shall be allowed to attend the all members of the audience, these arrangements, the news media, specifically directed not to report or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects and the general topic of the session as previously announced. No decision will be made during the next session.
We gotta get switched over our thing. He's got an attorney.
So we keep we're changing our computer scheme here a little bit. We'll keep regular session will run, but the camera and mic will turn off, and then the executive session is open. So that way we have a continuous run.
Hang on.
And we'll exec session.
Exec session will come up here for James. If you need to use the facilities,
Oh, they're not blurry on this one.
Yeah, they're not blurry on this one, they're blurry on this one.
Okay, we are unmuted and good to go.
Taking your motion, can I get a second motion, please?
Look at that.
All in favor? All opposed? The ayes have it. We are done. Good luck. Everyone have fun with elections. Yes.
Okay.